So welcome to the Holistic Vets for Transformation Conference. I'm Dr. Jeff Grognet, and with me is Dr. Meghan Barrett. So welcome, Meghan.
Thank you.
So Dr. Meghan, she's a visionary integrative veterinarian, and she's behind the Muse Holistic Veterinary Care. And she's redefining animal wellness across the Hawaiian Islands. So it tells you where she's practicing. She's renowned for her mastery of diverse modalities, including acupuncture, physical therapy, and nutritional guidance. Dr. Barrett's holistic approach transcends conventional boundaries, addressing the intricate connections between mind, body, and spirit in her patients. And you're going to see why in a second, why it's really transcending. She has a book out, From Basic to Boogie, a blueprint to upgrade your pet's diet safely and simply. And that empowers pet owners, giving them a direction on a journey towards optimal health and variety for their beloved companions. And Dr. Barrett integrates the transformative power of sound therapy into her practice, drawing from her multifaceted talents as a musician, with a repertoire that spans the ethereal melodies of the harp, the soothing tones of the flute, and the resonant vibrations of sound bowls, violin, and guitar. Dr. Barrett orchestrates healing symphonies that resonate deeply with her animal patients. Her unique background in electronic music production adds a modern twist to her productions, creating an immersive and transformative experience for both animals and their devoted caregivers. So with an introduction, we're going to move right into, what are we talking about, Meghan?
So today I wanted to talk about creating harmony in the home environment with our pets. And with that, we're exploring the importance of sound awareness for all of us pet owners.
So what got you started in this field?
So I have a long background as a musician. I started playing violin when I was 3. My parents were both symphony musicians, and their parents before them. So being a auditorily sensitive person, I started to discover it was hard on me to work in the hospital where there's so much noise pollution all the time. And I was trying to do my acupuncture sessions at a Western clinic. You know, they would give me a little room to work in, but they're still banging outside and, you know, people popping in, asking questions, and the amount of noise that goes on in a setting like that is actually pretty remarkable once you start to pay attention. And I think that I started to realize that those things were affecting all of us more than we give most attention to. And so with the amount of pet owners coming in with questions about behavior issues for their dogs, you know, most of the appointments I see, there's some behavioral component that they have a concern about. And I think that sound and noise in the home and in the lifestyle are a big piece of these issues. So out of necessity, I've become interested in it because I just see that there's a big gap in the awareness for both professionals and pet owners.
Yeah, and I've seen that myself because I was at a 4-vet practice, a busy 4-vet practice. And then my wife and I opened up our own practice, and we moved into acupuncture and doing the weird stuff, so to speak. And yeah, you put the acupuncture needles in, and then you say, okay, I'd like you to relax for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, there's a flurry of stuff going on, you know. So we actually had a dedicated room at the back of the hospital that we were able to do it in, which was nice and quiet. When we were doing appointments, there was nothing happening in the back of the hospital because we were working back there. So it was fantastic. But I know exactly what you mean, you know, and that just the distractions are horrible, you know, in terms of you try and do something and all of a sudden you put needles in a cat and then all of a sudden a dog barks up right outside the other door, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never fail.
So how do sounds impact the pets and also the people's well-being and behavior?
Yes. So I think that we all experience a lot of sensory overload these days. And, you know, obviously for people, we have the screens and all that, but for dogs and pets in the house, just the auditory stimulation has a significant effect. And just these environments we live in where we have the constant TV, phones pinging and ringing, and, you know, people coming in and out, just the modern pace of life is not what an animal would be experiencing if they were living out in nature, right? So with dogs, their hearing range is also more wide than ours. So they hear from about 20 hertz to 55,000 hertz. And we're only about 20 to 20,000. So they have that broader range. So there's all sorts of stuff they're hearing that we don't even notice too. And their ears are like little satellite dishes to pick up all these auditory frequencies so that it can alert them to something going on, and they have an orienting response where if they hear a sound over there, they're going to look and try to process that information and understand what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a, you know, constant demand on the nervous system. So, you know, there's been research that shows that people who are exposed to chronic noise have much higher levels of adrenaline and cortisol. There also is research that shows that if you have a perceived loss of control over an environment, such as if you're in a room and your neighbor has their TV on and you can't turn it off, it's driving you crazy, then that loss of sense of control can also cause stress. And, you know, that's the total case for our dogs where they can't, you know, turn it on and off. The best they can do is leave the room. And I think we're tuned out. We don't notice when they're doing those behaviors sometimes. So I think it's important for us to understand the effects of this like secondhand sound on the dogs.
Yeah. Our dog, if we're watching TV and it's I call it Rambo movie or something like that, all of a sudden, where's she gone? He's gone to the bedroom.
Yeah.
You know, so he can do that, you know, and we have a very quiet house. So that's the key. So when we have the TV on, it's novel, right? And so, but he will just say, I'm out of here, and he just slinks away, you know, and you know, so we can get it back if we call him. But the point is, he's making that decision.
Yeah, and it's important that they have those options to make the decisions of whether they want to be around the violent gunfire and all the scary noises in movies. I think we don't realize because we're engrossed in it, but movies in particular these days are very loud and violent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not actually watching the movie, it's just a lot of noise. So
they don't get quiet.
No,
there's
something going on.
This music or guns or whatever. Yeah. What sounds are deleterious for pets? What turns them off?
So there are lots of things, and I think some of the obvious ones people know about are like thunderstorms, fireworks, but I think others that are a little bit less well known are things like I said, the phone ringing, you know, the constant notifications just going off, the noise on TV, radio, even some, if you just leave the classical music radio on, some of those symphonies are very crash and bang with the crescendos.
And so, dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's beautiful music, but a dog might not understand why all the cymbals are crashing. You know, there's noise from cars whizzing by, honking. If you have any construction near your house, those can produce all sorts of noises, from the jackhammer to the beeping and stuff like that. And then our appliances, such as your garbage disposal or the coffee grinder, the hair dryer, vacuum cleaner, all of those things are loud, scary noises that pets don't understand.
Yep. So, and the washer that goes clunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's sirens from an ambulance, car alarms, your phone on the speakerphone that, you know, your dog may not enjoy listening to all your conversations. And then, of course, video games, people play those Call of Duty and loud, violent games. So it's just, once you start to pay attention, it's like everywhere.
Yeah. We, a couple of decades ago, we had a cat, Clayton, and if the phone rang, he ran.
Oh,
But the only problem is he usually ran to a place where there was another extension of the phone.
yeah.
Like, it's like, dummy, you're not going to get away, you know? And meanwhile, the housekeeper could, she had the vacuum with the beater bar on, right? She could push him around with that on the carpet.
Oh, gosh.
You know, like, phone kills you, but the vacuum is fun. It never made sense to me, you know. So what the sign with him was he was out of here if the phone rang, which we got rid of that phone. It was everything was fine after. But what's the sign that a pet is stressed? What are they showing?
So there's a lot of signs to look for. The obvious ones being, if they run away or as soon as there's a noise, they're out of there. That's a big one. But there's subtle things like if they're yawning and it doesn't seem like they're relaxed, but they're still yawning, that can be a sign of stress. If they're lip licking and there's no food around or any context for why they would be doing that. Another one that I think people will recognize more frequently is shaking or trembling.
Mm-hmm.
And then, panting. Those are all things to tune in with your dog if their behavior shifts a bit, where they're looking away or starting to pant. There may be something that they're hearing that you may not even notice that's bothering them.
Yeah. Or if the cat's there with great big dilated pupils, kind of going,
definitely.
Something's scaring me.
Yeah.
So the key is being able to see something is wrong with your pets, and then how can we figure that out in terms of what is bothering them?
So I think a good exercise to do is just to spend, 10 or 15 minutes sitting, with your dog on the floor and just do nothing and listen for everything that you hear. This is kind of the exercise I give people to start building their sound awareness and then maybe have a notebook and write down every sound that you hear and see how long that list gets. You can also rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how bothersome that noise is if you want. But, it's all through awareness. So you have to be aware of your dog's behavior and you have to be aware of the environment that you're both living in. And I think that's sometimes the hardest part is cultivating that, but it has many benefits.
Yeah. The thing that always strikes me is that it can be, I call it quiet at night, and the power can go off. And all of a sudden it's like, now it's really quiet.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Right? As in, gee, that background stuff, I didn't really realize it was going, and it's just that the fridge in the kitchen is making a hum.
Yeah.
Things like that. But when the power goes off, it's kind of like it's silent, and it really gives you a good appreciation for the fact that we have all this background noise going on.
Yeah. I've even heard stories of people who plug in those smart outlets and then the dog starts getting really agitated and they unplug that smart outlet and then everything's fine again because all the devices can emit those high-pitched frequencies that, to us, you may not even hear it, but the dog, it might be like nails on a chalkboard. So
yeah, no, there's certainly a big effect from EMF emissions. And I've got actually a neighbor who's like that. Where we're going to be moving to, there's no power there, and they move there for that reason.
Yeah.
Because they said if they're close, if the house is close to where power lines go by them on the road, it messes them up. They get headaches and such. So yeah, there's negative effects from this stuff. From electromagnetic fields, but also just. Not like the focus here, just the sound that's going on all the time, so So the key with that is how can we manage this noise? Now we've got awareness. How do we manage it?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what's going on in your area and in your house. Some things are easier to control than others, right? So if it's
Hmm.
noise inside your house, like you're someone who leaves the TV on a lot or the radio, maybe rethink that and see if you think it's maybe affecting your dog, then try something different with that and see if it helps. I think, if there are noises outside, you may not be able to control them as much, but you could put on some type of calming music or white noise that will help to mask those outdoor sounds so that they're not as obvious. And yeah, I think it's definitely important to just notice what's going on and manage what we can. If you have appliances that beep and buzz a lot, then maybe try to disable those. If you can, if you need to talk to someone in the other room, instead of yelling across the house at them, like go walk over and just speak to them in a normal tone. Some dogs are sensitive to yelling. And then, if you're in the kitchen and you're banging the pots and pans and slamming the drawers, those are all noises too. So just, I think, try to take a profile of the noise that you create and the noise that you're allowing through all your activities. And if it has to be noisy, then put your dog in a quiet place or put them outside if you can, so that they can have some peace. And another thing too is that if you take your dog to work with you, maybe rethink whether that's in their best interest. I think it's tempting to want to bring your dog everywhere, but some of those environments we bring them to are actually not as peaceful as we think. And just, another thing to consider as you're going through this inventory of the stressors that your dog's exposed to.
Yeah. So the first thing is just figuring out what the noises are, or should we call it, I'll call them sound. We don't want to give them a negative connotation yet, but we want to see what the sounds are and then decide, do we need to alleviate them or not, based on what Rover and Kitty are telling us.
Yes, just experiment with it and see what you discover.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we see on the internet in terms of people having recordings for calming, and now we're seeing them as the calming times for dogs, right? So obviously sounds are being used for other as we're using sounds here. So can we use them for enhancing our bond and helping things out?
Yes, absolutely. So there is certain types of sounds and music that can promote a more calm, just, your environment and your internal environment to promote those feelings of well-being. And so there has been research done on this, the Bioacoustic Research Development Project from Susan Wagner and Joshua Leeds, that's, I think, pretty well known in our holistic community now. But they've done a lot of work to discover what type of music dogs respond the best to. And so in general, I think we'll be diving into this more in the next session. But in general, it's slow, simple music that doesn't have a lot of components to it. So, a piano or a harp or a guitar, just something that's almost, think of it as like a lullaby, because if it puts a baby to sleep, it'll probably put you and your dog to sleep too, in terms of calming the nervous system.
Yeah. So, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there on sound.
Mm-hmm.
As in there's some of the stuff that I hear for dogs, because I've tuned into a few of them, and they said, I'm going, dogs will like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the music out there on the internet, like you said, is pretty generic. I think people will kind of take spa music for humans, or lo-fi, the cafe music that is popular, and they'll make it, oh, this is pet calming music. But there are factors to it, like any percussive elements can be a bit jarring. And then high-pitched frequencies, like if you have a chime that comes in all of a sudden, that can be a bit jarring. So I think the things that are more like music you would listen to at a spa for a massage, just like those gentle atmospheric pads, those are nice because it's soothing. It's not jumping out at you in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one that I have, it's called Singing Bowls. So it's just a, you know, and they probably got half a dozen bowls in that thing, but they're just, you know, hitting them. But then when the meditation finishes, like it says, in half an hour, they must hit one really hard, and it just brings you right up. You know? I just think of that in terms of that you're talking about chimes doing that. Yeah, perfect. You know, it can really mess you up when you're trying to relax sometimes.
Yeah, I think for a person, if you're maybe deep in a meditation, something like that could be really activating in a good way. But, you know, when it comes to like a baby or a dog or cat, we're just trying to calm them down mostly. They're already exposed to too much, you know, weird noises that they can't process or recognize.
Yeah. So is there a way we can use sound for both our dogs and cats and us at the same time?
Yeah, I think just putting on, either having things be quiet some of the time, and then having some calm music on some of the time too. And just, you know, if you can, instead of leaving the TV on all evening, or, you know, maybe when you're cooking, doing some louder stuff, putting on some calming music to just help everybody settle down for the evening can be good. You know, if you're getting ready in the morning for work and you're a little stressed, put on some calming music and it might help you start your day with a little bit more peace and harmony. And I think, you know, when you leave the house, your dogs will sense that you're not just blowing out the door, and, you know, they're like, okay, she's good, we're good. I'm not going to be as anxious because, you know, we all started out in a calm space.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And so, in other words, don't put rock and roll on with Bob Seger. Move to something very nice and placid instead.
Yeah.
We try to get things going.
Yeah. I mean, I love all types of music, but when we're talking about trying to be therapeutic and you know, a chronic stress type of situation, then I think there's a reason classical music has survived the centuries that it has, because, you know, there's something very healing about it.
Yeah, yeah, but it does, like you say, it has its crescendos and percussive impacts at times,
Yeah.
which where the dog is going, I didn't sign on for that part.
Yeah.
You wanted
Maybe instead of a full symphony, you might have like a quartet or something that's a little more simple orchestration, or just a soloist, perhaps.
exactly. Okay, so any advice for parents, pet parents that want to move into this and get started?
I think just go ahead and, like I said, do that exercise where you sit down at the level of where your dog hangs out and just take an inventory of what's going on. And then, you know, identify the things that are happening, try to mitigate them if you can, and then go on a little journey to explore some music that you might enjoy that seems like it helps your dog to settle down. We also have a free gift that we'll be sharing, that's a sound healing recording that I've made that includes the singing bowls, harp, and some digital synths, so that you guys can unwind together and try out a sound healing created by a vet who thinks about all this stuff.
That sounds great. So I'll put the link below for that so everyone can go and listen to it. That'd be great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on board, Megan. And it's been fascinating. We're going to move into how we can use sound therapy to boost the well-being of pets. There's going to be more specific to that in part 2. That is the recorded version. And so hopefully we'll see you there. But thank you very much, Meghan.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Okay. So we'll see you in part 2. And that way you can learn more about sound and what to do with your pets.